everybody? Welcome to Total Football Talk. I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
And it's playoff edition, divisional playoff round. A lot of things kind of went the way we thought. Eric, as usual, for the 100th year in a row, is 6-2 after the wild card and divisional round. And for like the 19th year in a row, I'm freaking 5-3. I always seem to go 2-2 in the divisional round. And if I go 4-0 in the wild card, then I end up going 1-3 in the divisional. Putting all that aside, Eric, Chiefs and Colts is one. We both we got wrong. You picked the Colts as well as I did, thinking that they were going to be able to run the ball. And I have to say that if you're not a believer of the Kansas City Chiefs, and I want to make one thing clear out there to people that have been watching this show, it's not that I'm not a believer of the Kansas City Chiefs more than I was a believer of what the Colts were doing. There's no question in my mind Kansas City is the best team in the AFC. And if they don't win the AFC Championship game, then there's something very wrong with that equation. I thought Kansas City impressed me on three fronts. Defense, they came out and they absolutely made Andrew Luck look stupid. Running the football, I did not expect, although I should have, because you mentioned Williams. And I got to give credit where credit's due, Eric. You called Williams from the word go when we did this game and we were covering the pregame. You said Williams was going to have a big day, and a big game he did indeed have. He impressed the living heck out of me. I got to say, Patrick Mahomes looked unbelievable in that game. He didn't put up the gaudy numbers that one might expect. He was just lethal in his efficiency and his accuracy, moving Kansas City up the field and putting them in good position after good position. On the Indianapolis front, I observed that the Colts just didn't have that. It's almost like they seemed like they were out of gas. I don't know if the weather got to them, if Kansas City just made them look that bad, which is where I'm leaning, or if there just is a little bit of fatigue coupled with the fact that they were playing against such a superior football team. But credit Kansas City, 31-13. They dominated every aspect of the game from beginning to end. Mahomes looked great. Williams, as you called it, looked great. But I was impressed with the Kansas City defense. And if you could bring your defense to the show, you got a really good chance of advancing. Your takeaway, Eric?
Kansas City at home allows 18 points a game. And, well, they allowed under that. And, the KC defense really showed up in this game. They really flustered Andrew Luck. He was off all day. Another thing, 89 passing touchdowns combined between Mahomes and Luck, and one passing touchdown in the game alone. That was ridiculous. It was funny. I told Anthony before the game, I said, yeah, watch it be all rushing touchdowns. And yet there were 4 rushing touchdowns by the Chiefs and 1 passing touchdown by the Colts.
Yep.
And there was also a special teams breakdown while the Chiefs were punting. That's how the Colts got their other touchdown. Dave told former Bears special teams coordinator and current Chiefs coordinator was beside himself. He's like, are you kidding me? This is my specialty. How do you let somebody walk untouched right through the middle to block a punt and return it for a touchdown?
Yeah.
Andrew Luck was off all day until the fourth quarter when the Chiefs started to play really easy defense, and Luck took advantage. So that's why his numbers kind of seemed pedestrian at the end. If you looked at his numbers, scores 1 through 3, he was pitiful.
Yeah.
And what the Chiefs did, they knew they had to get pressure on Luck, and what they did was they put pressure straight up the middle from Justin Houston, from Chris Jones. And, Kansas City did this all with Eric Berry on the sideline, which is even more impressive, which I think that Kansas City said, hey, you know what? Let's sit you out of this game today because we're going to advance, and we're probably going to play New England, and we need you against New England. And I won't be surprised if Eric Berry's out there against Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Yeah.
But yeah, Damian Williams, man, he's been running really well. He actually got a crap ton of carries. He got 25 carries in this game. He's made the most of 7 carries in a game. He's made the most with 10 carries in a game. But you give this guy 25 carries, and he also got a carry taken away inside the 5 where Darrell Williams scored a touchdown as well. And so, I mean, he could even have better day. He could have had over 130 yards, 2 touchdowns if they gave it to him. Mahomes on the Chiefs side, what they needed to do and what it looked like, it seemed like they wanted to do was just get out to an early leading coach. That's kind of what they did. Mahomes didn't have to be spectacular in this game, and he wasn't. Okay, he misfired on 14 passes. He only had 278 yards, no touchdowns, only a rushing touchdown, no picks, which was huge. And there was really one big turnover, and that was the Colts fumbling a punt in their own territory. And Kansas City, of course, abruptly scored a couple of plays later. So, Kansas City went out. They did what they had. They put the dagger in by halftime. It was when it was 24-7, and they didn't let the Colts back into it. The game may have turned at the end of the first half when Vinatieri missed a 23-yard field goal.
Yeah. What's
funny about that is that it was snowing, and Charles Woodson had the most epic response on Twitter saying, "Where was that 12 years ago?"
Right, seriously.
However long ago.
Yeah.
Where was that
17 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just actually kind of hilarious. I saw a football game being played where the refs actually let them play a lot.
Yeah.
And, whether or not that's good for the game, I like it because it's not 2 plays, flag, stop, holding. 2 plays, flag, stop, holding. 2 plays, flag, illegal procedure, false start, face mask, whatever. They let these guys play, and they actually played a pretty clean game, if you ask me. Kansas City's tough. Yeah, they're a tough game. They're a tough opponent. The Colts, I thought they'd put up more of a fight. I was wondering where T.Y. Hilton was, who actually didn't show up until majority of the second half. He had 1 or 2 catches early on, and then didn't show up until the fourth quarter. Inman, I did not see at all in the fourth quarter. I was like, where are you running routes? Chester Rogers was out there. Zach Pascal was out there. Eric Ebron was out there. And, the first pass to Eric Ebron of the day looked like a brick being thrown his way. And what does he do? Of course, he drops it. It's like, dude, it's a football. Catch it. But, I'll tell you, man. Kelsey looked great. Hill looked great. Sammy Watkins even looked good for the Chiefs. And I mean, if they get Watkins and whatever they get out of Conley and even Demetrius Harris, if they even need those guys, especially against the Patriots, and especially if they advance to the Super Bowl, I mean, the more that they're going to get those guys involved, the better. But you always got to go with your big time hitters, and that's what they did. Williams, Hill, Kelsey. I expect Mahomes to pick it up here the next game or 2.
Well, I tell you what I think is going to end up happening is we'll talk about I'm going to talk about Chiefs in a minute. Now that the Colts are bowing out, I think the divisional teams deserve a little bit of extra coverage once they're gone. I think Indy's future looks great. They've got their quarterback. They're going to continue to build that O-line. I don't think they're going to spend the capital to go get Antonio Brown. But you know what I do think they're going to spend the capital in getting is Leonard Fournette. Because I told you I think Le'Veon Bell is going to end up a Chicago Bear. I think Leonard Fournette's going to end up a Colt. And you couple him with Mack, and you've got yourself a C.J. Anderson, Todd Gurley type situation down in Indy. And that'll really open up T.Y. Hilton, allow for Ebron to grow a little bit more. I like Rodgers. I think he's underutilized. I know he's a slot receiver. Inman's looked great. I don't think you need to push the wide receiver envelope. Let these kids grow up and prove that they're, really good wide receivers. I'm watching Rodgers play, and I don't know if it's the jersey or if it's the way he's running routes, but I'm like, is that Bill Brooks? Am I watching Bill Brooks from the 1980s? He was the Colts' best player until Dickerson showed up. And year in and year out, Bill Brooks was the guy that you had to stop on the Indianapolis offense if anyone could get him the football. And it's not that Rodgers is going to dominate, but you know that he's going to run a good crisp route and he's going to be in position. And when you have a quarterback like Andrew Luck, that's lethal. Then you throw in the fact that, like I said, Leonard Fournette's going to open everything up for this football team when they get him. And I really believe that's going to be his landing spot. Call it a hunch, call me crazy. I got Antonio Brown going somewhere else, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So my feeling on Indy is that you're ahead of schedule, you had a great season, and now the sky is the limit. And when you have an offensive line like they do, and arguably the best offensive line in the AFC, that's a team I don't want to have to play. What's your take on the Colts?
Well, my take on the Colts is we we wouldn't be talking about them if the original coach who said yes was still there.
Yeah.
So you have to give Jim Irsay, Chris Ballard, and Frank Reich a ton of credit for what they've done in Indy to be able to put that eyesore behind them and move on and get the best guy hired. I mean, you know, Frank Reich, when he was hired, he didn't even ask about Andrew Luck. And, you know, the Colts front office is basically the reason why that he got the job is because he didn't inquire too much about Luck. And he's like, you know what, if he plays, he plays. You know, we'll deal with that when it comes. And he played all year. You know, he started out really good against the Bengals, and then, you know, Andrew Luck threw 39 touchdown passes. What more do you want from a franchise quarterback coming off a year of after shoulder surgery?
Exactly.
But as far as what the Colts need, I mean, build up that offensive line. You know, Luck was sacked 3 times in the Kansas City game, and he was untouched for over 180 times, dropping back and not taking a sack for quite a few games during the regular season. I think like 10 games or whatnot. So build up that offensive line. You already have a great offensive lineman in Quentin Nelson. So, you know, build up through them. No, I don't see Pittsburgh trading Antonio Brown to Indianapolis. I think they want to get him as far away from Pittsburgh as possible to where they might not have to see him for a couple of years. I've heard San Francisco rumors. That's pretty much the main rumor that I've heard. But I know you're high on Le'Veon Bell to the Bears, but there's no way that I can see the Jaguars cutting Fournette to let him sign in Indianapolis when they could trade him to their destination of choice while he's still under contract. So why not throw 14 to 16 million at Le'Veon Bell and say, hey, look at this O-line. We know you had great success in Pittsburgh. We expect you to take that success here, and now you have another. Now we're going to pair you with a young quarterback, and let's see you run all over the AFC South.
Well, I mean that's a good landing spot for him. There's no question. Look,
and I think that if they get Le'Veon, they really don't need Mac then, but I don't think you want to get rid of him either. I don't think you want to trade him because you always have that fallback option with Jordan Wilkins, and he's a good receiver out of the backfield. So when do you usually put him in? Third down? Okay, maybe a first and long or second and long or something like that to give Bell maybe a breather. But Bell's pretty much your workhorse, and you're gonna give him the ball. You're gonna give him 400 touches.
Well, that's just it. Is you don't want to give him 400 touches. If you have Mac, you can give him 300 touches, and give Mac about 150 touches, and you've got yourself a pretty balanced attack. So I think however they want to do it, they're going to get a bell cow at that position, however you want to cut it. Now, I want to go to the team that won. Kansas City's impressive. And Eric, at this point, I don't know how you pick anybody but Kansas City. And we're not doing our predictions for the AFC Championship game, but it's not just how the Chiefs won. It's not just that the Chiefs won. It's that when you're able to open up they used their weapons in different ways this week than anybody had seen. It wasn't Tyreek Hill on a vert or a deep post on the open route for the touchdown. It was on the jet sweep. You know, it wasn't Travis Kelce with the big, deep in or post route that he caught a 20-yard gain and rambled for another 15. It was the 5 and 7 yard completions just past the sticks on 3rd and 5. It was bullying people over and getting an extra 6 or 7 yards after the catch. And then you throw in the fact that Mahomes was just lethal in his efficiency, not just on 3rd down, but any down that they asked him to throw. A 27-41 doesn't sound lethal, okay? But I would argue most of those incompletions occurred on 1st or 2nd down. Most of his completions occurred on 2nd or 3rd down. He played unbelievable, and the moment wasn't too big for him. And then you added the defensive element, and this is the best game that I've seen the Chiefs play defensively all year long. And I think if you're a Kansas City Chief fan right now and you think your team's going to the Super Bowl, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody to argue against you. Now, we're going to talk about New England in a minute. But, Eric, your take on Kansas City in this game?
Kansas City showed why they're in the number 1 seed. And everybody's waiting for that classic Andy Reid hiccup. And he's got a team around him now where he's got a quarterback who's not going to turn the ball over. I mean, Alex Smith didn't turn the ball over, but, Mahomes makes not just insane plays, but also good reads as well. He's got your classic tight end to where you can throw in the ball anywhere on the field, and he's going to come down with it, and he's going to get more yards. You have your classic speedster wide receiver, then you have a couple other wide receivers who run the short routes, run over the middle. Where it may hurt them, okay, is the running back. But Damian Williams is proving that he can handle a load. He proved against the Colts that he could handle 25 carries. Do they want to keep continuing to give him 25 carries? Well, that's going to be how the flow of the game dictates everything. So, Kansas City, to me, all they need to do really is play their game, do not get flustered, even if they get down 10 or 14. And they were down 10 or 14 in Week 6 against the Patriots, and they came back right after halftime. So, depending on how the game is, Kansas City is set up for a long time. Like, if they can manage their cap pretty well, Kansas City is set up to be good for years.
They're like the Rams. The Rams are the same way. All right. Congrats, Kansas City. That wraps up the early game. Now we go to the nightcap. All right. Next up, as you guys saw with the helmets, it is the Rams and the Dallas Cowboys. And let me tell you something, as a longtime Ram fan, it's not just good that we won this game to go to the championship game, because regardless of the opponent, that would have been good. But it was the fact that it was Dallas. And like 99, where we got over the Viking bugaboo, our demon of years gone by, and our skeleton in the closet of years past, the ghost of Christmas past was the Dallas Cowboys. And now this year, we rectify that ghost. Not only do we rectify it and eradicate it, but we take the series lead, 5-4. Now, there's so many things I'm going to talk about this game. The Rams' offensive line, if they haven't proven that they are the best offensive line in the NFC, I can't talk to you. I don't know what else to say to you. Because everyone to a man said Dallas was going to run over the Rams. Everyone to a man said that Dallas's D-line had a better shot at stopping the Rams' running game than the Rams' D-line did the Cowboy D-line, with the exception of us on this show. Now, Havenstein was a beast. Blythe, Sullivan, Saffold, Whitworth, all of them. They absolutely dominated. And I heard something that I agree with. When you as a head coach are able to have your men move another group of men, you're able to motivate them in that way. McVay reached another level, another plane in his coaching ability. He showed everyone something people didn't know was there. He's not only a coach, but he's a manager of men. He's a motivator of men, and this game proved it. And I'll tell you when I knew this game was over. Opening kickoff, Dallas gets the ball, or the Rams get the ball, they go up the field, they kick a field goal. I'm like, okay, maybe this is going to be a tough game. Let's see what's going on. Maybe, we'll see how Dallas runs the football, because the Rams really should have scored. But I'm telling you right now, I started laughing. I started jumping up and down. I knew this game was over. Ezekiel Elliott was taken out of this football game on his first carry. He was mentally removed from competition. Dante Fowler, on that first carry, decleated Ezekiel Elliott. And he got up like, who in that? Was that Aaron Donald? And he looked up and saw that it was Fowler and went, what in the hell is going on here? And you could just see at that moment, Ezekiel Elliott was taken out of the game. It's a lot like Super Bowl 23, when Ickey Woods got stuck by Ronnie Lott in the second quarter. Ickey Woods was no longer a factor in that football game. In this game, when Ezekiel Elliott got stuck by Fowler, they were done. They were donezo. And I knew it. And I got so pumped up because I haven't seen a Ram team hit like that ever. I have never seen the Rams come out and lay the boomstick like they did on that opening play. And it didn't stop. It didn't stop all day long. Akeem Talib, I said in the beginning of when he came back after the bye week, that he's the real deal, that he's a difference maker. We give up half the points we normally give up for the season average when Akeem Talib's in the lineup. And once again, this game we gave up a little bit more than the average, but that was because of a questionable pass interference penalty on 4th down that got Dallas first and goal at the 1-yard line. I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm saying if you're going to let him play, can you let that one go? Because both of them were fighting each other. But I digress. It doesn't matter. First of all, it wasn't catchable because he was out of bounds. But some people will say, well, he was out of bounds, Anthony, because Akeem Talib illegally pushed him out of bounds. Fine, whatever. There's the penalty. But I'll tell you something. The Rams, the story of this game was the Rams front 7 and the Rams front 5, or back 7, if you will. The Rams offensive line and those 2 running backs and that linebacking core and that D-line. They absolutely won this game from the word go. And it might have been 30-22, Eric, but this game wasn't even close. Dallas had given up 73 yards against Seattle, the number 1 rushing defense in the National Football League, a rushing offense. The Rams put up 200 yards on top of that in this game. 273 they ran for. C.J. Anderson was unstoppable. Todd Gurley was explosive when he needed to be. And Jared Goff was lethally efficient when he had to be. Now, there were 3 throws that Jared Goff threw in this game that I'm like, WTF, J Goff, what is going on? And 2 of them were back-to-back on 2nd and 3rd down, respectively, and we were forced to punt, where he just airmailed it way over the head of the wide receiver and the tight end, respectively, on back-to-back plays. And I was really upset because we had a punt in that situation, but the defense showed up. And then our kicker nearly made a 63-yard field goal before halftime. It went wide right, but that's at the distance. There's so many things that I'm excited about. The Rams, under Sean McVay, after a bye week, are now 3-0. No one's talking about it. They won last year out of the bye week. They won this year out of the bye week against Detroit. And they won this year out of the bye week in the divisional round against Dallas. So keep an eye on that record as we move forward. If Sean McVay can continue, you give this guy 2 weeks and he's almost unbeatable. But the other thing that I liked about this game, Eric, was that the Rams seemed to understand the magnitude of the moment, and they didn't crumble. They rose to the occasion. Now, I've gone on a long diatribe, 8 minutes about this game, and I told you that I have not given, I did my little post-game, how I felt about the game. But this is the real in-deep analysis that I want to make sure that I gave, because there are so many elements to this game that the Rams did what we said they needed to do. They needed to run the ball. They needed to stop Ezekiel Elliott. They needed to play with a lot of emotion. They needed to make sure that they understood not only the significance of the moment, but that they were up to the moment. And I think the Rams did all 3. Your take.
All right, Ram fans, I want you to mail your thank you cards to the Philadelphia Eagles, Carroll Lincoln Financial Field, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Because if it wasn't for the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Chicago Bears, there's no way in heck you run for 273 yards in a game, especially against one of the top 5 defenses in all football. But alas, that's not what happens. That's why they play the games. I will tell you this. You'll need all 273 of those yards on the ground against the New Orleans Saints. But I'll tell you this much. If we're just going to talk about the Rams and the Cowboys, wow. C.J. Anderson and Todd Gurley by themselves, 39 carries for 238 yards and 3 touchdowns by themselves. But really the play of the game was Jared Goff's 11-yard scramble.
Yeah.
To ice the game right there. Now, what the Rams did was surgical. They kept the Cowboys' defense on its heels the whole game. Where was Van Der Esch? Where was Smith? Where was Sean Lee? Yeah, they made some plays. I saw, they were out there. But, man, were they gassed. That whole Cowboys defense, gassed. And when you have a defense like that, that's all you do. You keep getting first downs, keep them on the field, do not quick score. Because you would score, you give them a little bit more time to catch their breath. Dallas's offense was okay. I thought Dak actually looked mighty impressive.
He did.
With no running game. Okay, and he tried to take it upon himself to carry the load for the Cowboys, and although Amari Cooper had a 29-yard touchdown catch, I mean he was relatively quiet the rest of the game. But what I tell you about Michael Gallup, watch out for Michael Gallup because he can beat you deep, and this is why that. Michael Gallup's a speedster, okay? And if a cheap lead is going to be on Amari Cooper, and he's going to talk all that crap, that's fine, okay? Because we're going to get into the matchups on why Talib is probably going to be on Michael Thomas and why Marcus Peters is going to be on Ted Ginn. And Marcus Peters, I will tell you this. When I was watching the Rams defense, Marcus Peters did make a couple of nice plays, but he is your biggest Achilles heel right now. And if you don't agree with that, then take off your blinders. Take off your blindfolds and take out the pick and the fork and the knife in your eye because Marcus Peters is semi a liability, and that's not good if teams start to utilize their second wide receiver against him. As we saw in the first meeting between the Saints and the Rams when you didn't have Talib. It's going to be a little bit different going forward. Now that they're both out there, I thought it was a scary moment when Talib went out with concussion-like symptoms, and he went back to the locker room. I was like, oh no, not what the Rams need right now. No. Like I'm watching this game, and I'm watching it with a keen eye. I'm not really like jumping up and down for any touchdowns or field goals or whatnot. But man, I was on the edge of my seat when I'm seeing the Rams at like 3rd and 6, and they're just running the crap out of the ball. And when you think that Goff's gonna pass, oh, here's another run. Oh, C.J. Anderson was a dump truck in this game. Nobody could tackle him after 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, and it was disgusting because he ran over Leighton Van Der Esch. He ran over Sean Lee and Jalen Smith. He ran over the whole Cowboys defense. But your biggest test is coming forward, and you know it. Because if the Cowboys' defense acted like Swiss cheese, and you play two other Swiss cheese defenses, you know you got to lean more on Goff in the NFC Championship game. But Goff did everything he did perfectly in this game to keep the Rams at bay, lean on the running game, and McVay looks like a little kid in one of those ball pits where he's jumping up and down, flips in the ball pit, throwing balls at people because you know what? He had all the answers, and the Cowboys looked lost.
Well, the fact that the Rams did it to a defense that's infinitely better than the New Orleans Saints. What's the Saints' ranking defensively?
We'll keep talking. I'll look that up.
Okay. Dallas, I know, was like the 5th-ranked defense, and they made that happen against the Dallas Cowboys, and it's not like Dallas had any major injuries. The Saints have 2 problems. One is their coach's mouth, okay, which I know the Rams, they wanted this rematch. Trust me, I don't think there was a single Ram player that was actually rooting for Philadelphia. I think to a man, they would tell you they wanted to go back and play New Orleans in that building to show everyone who the best team in the NFC has been all year long and will continue to be. The second problem that the New Orleans Saints have is there's no Rankins. Sheldon Rankins is out. He's donezo. And now you take one of your run-stuffing cogs out of that lineup, and you got to play against this Ram team that is that didn't have C.J. Anderson in the last meeting, didn't have Akeem Talib in the last meeting, and the Rams have film on you. So I'm real curious to see how that game's going to break down. We'll get to New Orleans. My attitude is on this game is the fact that the Rams did it to the Dallas Cowboys tells me that this football team has figured it out. They know what butters their bread, and they're finally starting to play to the moment. The talent is finally starting to play to its potential. And that's bad news for New Orleans. Because in New Orleans, the talent didn't show up on defense. On offense, it was there all game long. But on defense, it was a no-show. And when we do the show about the championship game matchups, I'll tell you why I'm not worried about New Orleans. Because I'm not. But I'll tell you what I am impressed with and what I am worried about with the Rams. And what I'm worried about with the Rams is there seems to be these moments where they get in lulls on both sides of the ball. When I was watching basketball years ago. I used to follow the Pistons. That's my basketball team. Pistons, Lakers, Celtics, Suns. Don't hate me. I know they're all teams I shouldn't like together, but I do. But I remember watching the Pistons when they were doing their championship run. And the biggest Achilles heel for Detroit is they would go missing. They wouldn't make a shot for 8-9 minutes. Right? So the Rams seem to be doing that. They seem to have these moments, a quarter here, a half a quarter there, where they're nowhere to be found. And they allow teams to get back in the game, and that can't continue. So you have that element. Now, as far as the Dallas Cowboys go, because I'm going to talk a little bit about Dallas. Is there anything you want to add to this game, E?
Dallas's team defense was ranked 7th. The New Orleans is 14th, and the Rams are 19th.
Okay, so the Saints have a worse defense than Dallas, and the Rams made them look foolish. So we'll see how the championship game looks. Now I want to get to Dallas. I told you after the game, the Dallas Cowboys are going to get Antonio Brown next year. I'm telling you right now, as sure as I'm sitting here, I will be shocked if we don't find out Antonio Brown is donning the star and the silver and blue. Because Dallas has a couple second-round picks they can give up. They might be able to trade a Cole Beasley, or, I dare say, one of their other receivers, not necessarily Gallup, and bring in an Antonio Brown. They could potentially let almost called him Stan Lee, Sean Lee, go to Pittsburgh and finish his career as a Steeler because they've got those linebackers. And Pittsburgh needs a linebacker. So there's some movement there that Dallas can do to get Antonio Brown in a Cowboy uniform. And I said this and I meant it. This is going to be the first of a lot of meetings between the two teams. The Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Rams may meet up another 5 times during this run that these two teams will be embarking on moving forward in the future. Especially if the Cowboys get Antonio Brown, because Dak Prescott impressed me. That defense isn't going anywhere, and that coaching staff is only going to make tweaks here and there, but consistency within the program I think is going to be important. And Zeke is one of the best running backs in football. So I think you add Antonio Brown to that mix, and I think Dallas becomes uncoverable on offense. I don't know how you stop them, especially if Jarwin continues his growth, and Dak really likes that kid. Your takey.
I don't think Pittsburgh would pull that trade off because I don't think that they would want a Sean Lee to possibly play 3 games for them and then not play for the rest of the year. I just can't see Pittsburgh doing that unless the Cowboys throw us something else.
I told you, 2 number 2s, 2 second-round picks, and a player. I threw Sean Lee out there because they're weak at linebacker, and that's been an Achilles heel. And you can say what you want about his health. I could say the same thing about Luke Kuechly. No one's going to want Luke Kuechly because the guy can't stay healthy. You know that's bullcrap. Somebody's going to take Luke Kuechly. Somebody's going to take Sean Lee. But you throw in a couple second-round picks, maybe another receiver. It doesn't have to be Sean Lee. I was just putting it out there. But Dallas is going to give up something and a player to get him in there. But sorry, I just want to clarify. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Dallas needs more on the offensive side of the ball than anything. And get Zach Martin healthy. Get a couple of other big hogs up front. I mean, you're missing a first-round pick for Dallas, so, with the Amari Cooper trade, but build off it. Have Cooper and Prescott work together in the offseason. I mean, that might be your biggest weapon right there. With what he did, having him for a full season may be even more beneficial for you than any other player that you can go get. Listen, I know the Cowboys had T.O., and the Cowboys have had their other, Deion Sanders and other prima donnas as well. I'm just not sold that they would go after Antonio Brown. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll give you props if he goes there and you called it. And that'd be an interesting trade. That would totally change the NFC landscape.
Yeah.
Not just in the East, but everywhere whoever Dallas plays, because then now you need cover corners, and who can cover Antonio Brown? Yeah, I've seen him shut down a couple of times by a couple of different quarterbacks. Jalen Ramsey is one. You know, I would almost think about, like, if I'm the Giants, Eagles, or
the Redskins.
You know, trading for Bowie or trading for Ramsey and being like, okay, Antonio Brown's not going to beat us.
Yeah,
we got a cover corner. So
well, that would require Gruden to have a brain cell still functioning in his head.
Yeah, but I think if the Cowboys just keep building what they have, because they're still young on the offensive side of the ball, and if they shore up the defense and plug a player or two in, depending on who's available for free agency, I mean, you know, Dallas is the whole Dallas team can carry them to another 10-6, 11-5, maybe even 12-4 record, depending on the schedule.
Yeah. Well, getting to the Rams, look, they advanced to the NFC Championship game, so I'm pretty excited. I'm going to go over this. So this is the Rams' 10th time they've advanced to the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl era. I'll go through them briefly. 2000, I'm going to go backwards, okay? This year, obviously, is one. 2001, where they played the Eagles. 2000, or a.k.a. 99, where they played the Buccaneers. Then you had 89 against the Niners, 85 against the Bears. You had 79 against the Bucks, 78 against Dallas, 76 against Minnesota, 75 against Dallas, and 74 against Minnesota. Now, you go into the NFL championship days, and the Rams have another 4 games, or actually 5 games there. You have the Redskins, the Browns 3 times, okay? And you've got the Eagles once. So, all total, the Rams have been to this stage of the NFL season 15 times in their history. 10 times in the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl era is a pretty impressive statistic. And once again, the Rams are going to have to do it on the road, which, ironically, in 2 of the 3 championships that they've won, 2 of them were at home. 1 was on the road at Tampa Bay, a team that they lost to earlier in the year in rather convincing fashion, I mind you, in Tampa. The Rams had to go back as a major underdog after beating Dallas and beat the Buccaneers to go on to the Super Bowl and play the dynasty that was the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's a lot of parallels to the 79 team and this team. But this Ram team, you know, I've said all year long that this was the best team in football because I believe they have the best offensive line. I believe that Jared Goff is one of the elite quarterbacks in this league, whether they want to admit that or not. They've got a great group of wide receivers, and when Cooper Kupp is healthy, their offense is absolutely unbeatable. You throw in the fact that they're starting to utilize the tight ends, which I think they need to do more of moving forward and certainly in the next year. They've got one of the best, if not the best, running back in football. They've got the best defensive player in professional football. I think Akeem Talib is going to be returning next year as a Ram, which in that case they have one of the best corners in football. LaMarcus Joyner's got some growing up to do, but man, Johnny Johnson looks phenomenal, and he's only getting better. They got a great kicker. They got a great punter. They've got the coach. This team, like Kansas City, Eric, it's built for the long haul. And a lot of people don't realize this, but the Rams have $81 million to play with the cap next year. And if that doesn't scare the pants off of anybody listening, I don't know what does. Because I don't think the Rams are going to rest if they do win the Super Bowl this year. I don't think they're going to sit back and go, okay, we're good. You know, they may let Peters go. I personally think they're going to re-sign Peters on a much cheaper contract than maybe he was hoping for. You know, and getting him on a value deal. I think the Rams are going to let Joyner walk, and I think the Rams are going to really play for a top-notch safety that's a free agent. Or at the very least, use their first-round pick on it. We'll see what they do. But I think the Rams' free agency is going to be focused on O-line to get depth, because you don't know how much longer. I think Whitworth personally is going to retire. If the Rams win the Super Bowl, I think Whitworth and Sullivan both retire, which means the Rams are going to have to address those 2 positions in free agency. They can't rely on a rookie. Well, I shouldn't say that. At least the left tackle. No Bloom, I think you can move him. Well, maybe not, now that I think about it. Because you got that center that they picked up from Michigan State that's phenomenal. And you got Noteboom, who's played outstanding when he's been in. Maybe the Rams sit there and go, okay, we're going to, maybe move Saffold to left tackle and move Noteboom to guard and say, grow up a little bit, and we'll see what you do. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams made a play in free agency on the O-line and at safety. But it's not about that right now. The Rams are going to the championship game, and I'm going to say two things here, and then I'm going to let you talk. Okay? Number one, this is the matchup I believe the Rams wanted. It's the matchup I wanted. I told you Saturday afternoon I was rooting for the Saints because it would be nice if the Eagles won because the Rams have a home playoff game, but I wanted New Orleans. And I've wanted New Orleans since we lost to them in Week 11. When you have a team that you look at what's happened this year between these two teams. You had Sean Payton running up the score against the Rams in the preseason against essentially their cut squad. And it really pissed off Sean McVay. Then they go into New Orleans. He talks all that trash to Marcus Peters. They end the Rams' win streak. And New Orleans kind of rubbed it in their face a little bit during and after the game. You don't think that motivates this football team? Marcus Peters was quoted as saying, we'll see him again soon, and we're going to have a bowl of gumbo together, meaning him and Sean Payton. If you think for 1 minute that Marcus Peters is not going to be absolutely locked in and play the best game of this season in New Orleans, you either aren't watching football or you don't know what motivates an athlete of that caliber and of that level. Marcus Peters is not garbage. He's had a bad year, and he won't get the big payout. But a motivated Marcus Peters, oh my goodness. I won't be surprised if he ends up with 2 picks and a forced fumble in this game against New Orleans. And
Okay, so hold on. So if that motivates him and he's going to have a big game, wouldn't he have to be covering Michael Thomas?
No.
No. So
Not.
You're going to put Talib on Thomas.
Right. It doesn't. No. You don't have to put Peters.
Five times.
You don't have to put Peters on Thomas. You don't, because Peters.
I know you don't. It would be foolish to, because if you did, it'd be another 250-yard receiving game for Michael Thomas.
I don't know if it would be.
What I'm saying is, how is Marcus Peters going to do that when Drew Brees rarely looks to his second wide receiver, and that's where Peters is going to be? He's going to be all alone out there.
Well, I'll tell you something else. Okay.
Unless he's going to pick off Alvin Kamara's pass down the field, which he's not going to throw, then, you're smoking something bad.
Okay, because I did see Drew Brees throw like 5 times to Teddy Ginn Jr. in the Eagles game. So, and you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to throw to Michael Thomas.
Guess what Peters has trouble defending? The long ball. And guess what Teddy Ginn Jr. is good at doing? Running sacks down the sideline and catching those.
And that's why I said Peters is motivated. This is the matchup I know Peters wanted. This is the matchup I believe McVay wanted. I don't know if this is the matchup necessarily that the Rams D-line wanted. But I will tell you, this is a motivated Rams team that can now run the ball even better than they were able to do in Week 11. And you're not going to be able to throw to Michael Thomas as much, so Peters is going to get attention for all the reasons you just mentioned. And I'm telling you, 2 picks and a forced fumble, I won't be surprised. Now, your take on the Rams this season and moving forward in this game, without doing a prediction, because we're not doing predictions.
This season, they've really learned a lot from what they accomplished last year, and it was good to see them take the next step, especially under a 32-year-old head coach. Like, how many of those players want to listen to somebody who's their age?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we can just blow off the coach, whatever. No, he commands respect. He commanded respect from day one, because he gave respect, he earned it, and with his coaching style, it's just amazing what he's been able to go through with that team. Now, I want the Rams in their 85, 89 uniforms when they come out against the Saints on Sunday.
That would be great. The old white.
I'm just saying that. They need to do that.
They're not.
Anyways, so, I would be looking. Obviously, I believe they're going to lose too. And so I would be looking for a younger guy to put next to Donald and let him feed off Donald and let him be in Donald's ear for for years, because you know Donald's going to be there for years. Get another guy who's going to be there for quite a few years. You just let them feed off each other. I think what they need is they need some young blood in there who's going to stop the run. And I know Donald can, and he tore up Dallas's offensive line.
Sue had his best game of the year.
Well, Sue had his best game of the year, but that doesn't mean they're going to resign him.
No.
But, build from the trenches. I mean, you have your playmakers already. I would maybe even look to see if there's a tight end on the market or even in the draft that's a tight end that you could, I want to say, more likely to rely on. I don't think Higbee is where the Rams want him to be, and I think they want more of that pass-catching tight end. This way to take the focus out of Cooks and Woods and Cup or whatnot, add another dimension. Why not? Why not have that? And then you have your 5 guys blocking for Gurley. And I think what you should do is re-sign C.J. Anderson. Why not? I mean, if you're gonna go back and you're going to want to pound Gurley into the ground, listen, Gurley didn't look himself. He had some good runs. I mean, he had over 100 yards. He just didn't look himself. I know that he must have been on a step count, even though they didn't say it, because granted, he only ran 16 times. He touched the ball. You know what? My bad. He didn't even. Yeah, he had 2 catches on 2 targets. So he touched the ball 18 times in the game. And so I guess what they were limiting him to is 20 or less if they could.
Well,
when they found out that C.J. Anderson could run through this defense, they're like, you know what? Here, C.J., we're going to feed you. And I think they really want to utilize Gurley against the Saints, but then they know if they win, they have 2 weeks off, so he can be ready to go if they get that far. But
McVay said it was a cardiovascular thing.
There's nothing wrong with having 2 quality running backs.
McVay said it was a cardiovascular thing. That's why. Maybe it was a snap count for that reason.
They did say that during the game or whatever. It was more cardio because he had been out 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah, I get that, and I'm sure they were like, oh well, let's give him a limited amount of touches, which 20 or less would be great.
Anderson,
when C.J. Anderson started running, they're like, because you rarely saw early in the fourth quarter, and I think that was by design, and it worked for them. And we'll see how it works moving forward. But C.J. Anderson knows he's running back number 2 on that team, so it's not like.
And I think he's fine with it.
To take early spot.
And I think he's fine with it. And C.J. Anderson earned those fourth quarter carries. He really did. I love the kid. My favorite moment, I think, in 2018's NFL season, my favorite moment was when C.J. Anderson ran out of bounds and ended up sitting on the Cowboys bench. Number 77, I don't know what his name is for Dallas. He's kind of like off away from C.J. Anderson, and he's looking at him like, man, you better be getting up off my bench, motherfucker. Like, he was not happy at all. And C.J. Anderson was just like, I'm going to take a breather here real quick because my fat rear end's been running all day. All right, I got to get up. It was easily my favorite moment, and it was chill. It wasn't disrespectful. But you could tell it irritated 77 on Dallas. I don't know who it is. I'm sorry. I can't remember who his name is. And whoever the other guy was. But I'm going to have that moment stained in my memory forever because it was funny. I chuckled. C.J. Anderson's going to be a Ram, I think, for the rest of his career. However brief that may be. The bowling ball with legs, as I like to call him, was just that. He was bowling over pins and he dominated. It's funny because I'm listening to all these people go, who expected the Rams to run all over Dallas? We did. If you guys watched our show, we said the Rams would have success running the ball against Dallas and that they were going to have to flip the script to beat the Cowboys. And we were confidently picking the Rams to beat Dallas in a blowout because we felt like the Rams are going to run the ball. I love listening to these experts when they sit there and go, no one saw this coming. So if you want real analysis, Total Football Talk's your show. Righty?
That's right, man. That's right. Absolutely.
All right. Next up, we're going to cover the biggest shocker of the day coming up. In my opinion, the biggest shocker in this entire postseason format was the San Diego Chargers That's right. The San Diego Chargers against the New England Patriots. If the battle for LA was still going on, somebody needs to tell the Chargers they got knocked the out. Okay? They got knocked the heck out. They're done. They are not LA. LA doesn't want them. Good luck selling season tickets as the second place team that got smoked by New England while the Rams are just dishing out dollars for the defending Super Bowl champions in 2019. It's going to be really hard for the Chargers to get, I think, a hold of the LA market. I think Charger fans are laughing. Old San Diego fans, they're laughing. I don't know what the Chargers are going to do moving forward. I still don't believe they're going to be in that building much more than a year, if they're in that building at all. This was a bad loss on so many levels for Chargers and Charger fans and for the Chargers, because it wasn't just the Patriots they were competing with on Sunday morning. It was the LA Rams. And I think, I'm not going to say that the Rams got in their head, but I think that was just another element of pressure on the Chargers moving forward, and maybe that's why they played so tense. Look, Tom Brady beat the Chargers the same way he's beaten everybody else this year. Will somebody please play press coverage on those wide receivers and blitz the A-gaps and shut New England down and out? Can somebody please do it? Nope. What do the Chargers do? 8 to 10 yards off the wide receiver, blitzing the edges, maintaining the gaps, and oh, by the way, the Patriots ran the ball all day long on the Chargers. So for me, I was shocked because I didn't expect New England to run as effectively against the Chargers as they did in that game. But it was funny because every time it was third down, Tom Brady could literally handpick whoever he wanted to throw to for the first down, except for Gronk, because apparently he didn't throw to him very much at all. And obviously Edelman was I think Edelman had 167 yards receiving, and I think he might have had 160 yards yak total for the game. I don't think the man went further than 5 yards downfield the entire time, catching the ball and just running like a lunatic. You cannot play off the Patriot wide receivers. Trust that Tom Brady's statistics this year are Tom Brady's statistics this year. I would rather lose to somebody defending them the way they're supposed to be played than losing to somebody the way they used to be played. If Tom Brady completes 3 out of 5 deep balls and beats you, tip your hat. He was on fire. You had the right game plan. He just executed better than you did. But you can't let him do what he did. And Sony Michel ran all over the Charger defense. So for me, this is a biblical loss for the Chargers and catastrophic. Not just because everyone was saying it was going to be an all-LA Super Bowl and everyone was talking up the Chargers, and somewhat rightfully so. But man, you go into New England and put up that kind of performance, 35-7 at halftime. That game was over at the end of the first quarter. That doesn't, am I wrong, Eric? Does that not really kill the Charger brand in LA?
No. They need some making up to do. Those are still, the Chargers had a great year. You can't take away from their 12-4 year and what they really do. If they're actually able to defend their home field, wherever that is in LA, they're going to get more fans to come out to support them, because in a 22,000 seat stadium, and when you're perfect on the road, but you're 4-4 at home, and people don't want to see that. I'm sorry, 7-1 on the road and 5-3 at home. People expect you to win your home game.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what they're there for. That's why you play them. But yeah, wow. If anybody remembers Mike Tyson versus Peter McNeely, this is what that game was.
Yeah.
All right, and
the Great White Hope.
That was 89 seconds. That's about how long this game lasted.
Exactly. He's down! He's down!
I know we have our lone Charger representative who listens religiously to us, but man, wow. I mean, yeah, Rivers put up 3 touchdowns, 331 yards passing, but man, that was all in the third and fourth quarter. He had a nice touchdown pass to Keenan Allen earlier in the game, to make it 14-7, and I'm like, okay, well, this is going to really jumpstart the Chargers, but they turned the motor off until the third quarter, until halfway through the third quarter. It's like, okay, does anybody want to step up here? And you know what? If you're not going to defend the Patriots, like you said, well, at least stop Julian Edelman. Nope, 9 catches, 151 yards. Well, then don't let James White run all over you. That's fine. He didn't run all over them. Sonny Michel did. And he ran for 129 yards and 3 touchdowns. But then James White is setting records of 15 freaking catches for 97 yards. And it's like, excuse me, Chargers? Anybody home? You do have 11 guys on the field, right? Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure. Listen, there's some stats in this game that need to be said. Midway through the second quarter, actually through the first half, the Chargers did not blitz Tom Brady, and Tom Brady is horrible against the blitz. He struggled with blitzes all year. Chargers didn't do it. 14 dropbacks in the first quarter alone. 14 in the first quarter. Not a lot of guys even get 4 dropbacks in the first quarter, but here's Tom Brady with 14.
Yeah.
Blitz none. Blitz none.
It's like they're afraid he's the 2007 Tom Brady. Did Tom Brady throw for 50 touchdowns this year?
And I'll tell you this much too. And you already mentioned it. Don't play zone against Brady. That's what the Chargers came on. It's like the Chargers read the scouting report and then decided to reverse and say, "Oh no, we're going to be able to beat Tom Brady in Foxborough playing zone with 7 DBs."
Yeah.
Problem is, your DBs play well off the line of scrimmage, and James White catching balls 3 yards past the line of scrimmage.
They played prevent
on the defensive line, and he's running his life away.
They played prevent. They played prevent the whole game. There was at one point I'm watching the game. It's 21-7, and the corners are the same depth as the 2 safeties on 1st and 10. And I'm like, what are you doing, Chargers? Oh, yeah, Edelman caught the ball and ran for 22 yards, or 10 yards, 11 yards, whatever it was. And I'm just like, then they had another situation where they weren't quite as deep, but they were pretty much as deep. And they threw it, to James White behind the line of scrimmage, and he just zigzagged and zogged his way, zigged and zagged his way to another first down. And I'm like, and it was funny, too, because the Chargers were just sitting there catching the Patriots. This is an ugly loss. There's no way to put it. No other way to put it. New England absolutely dominated. But let's talk a little bit about the Chargers on the flip side. Look, forever.
You know what? Hold on. Let me start with the Chargers.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to say something. Actually, I want to give them a compliment.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Mike Williams looks like a stud.
Mm-hmm.
Get him the ball a few more times a game, and you have a legit threat out there. And I know he's great at jumping up and catching balls, but man, get him 3 to 5 more catches than he normally averages, and he is going to be a stud. Keenan Allen, he stays healthy. That's his whole thing right there. Stay healthy, and he has the last 2 years, which has been great. I love the wide receiving core for the Chargers. Melvin Gordon came into this game well banged up, and you could tell.
Oh yeah.
And you could tell. Okay, so you already knew he wasn't going to be feeling it, and you could see toward the start of the second half that they wanted to get Eckler more involved, which they did, and which was fine. But I'll tell you what, the Chargers need to get some healthy linebackers to not play 7 DB in the game anymore. Get some healthy linebackers. Joey Bosa needs to get his foot right. Okay, whatever that is. He's got to be in training camp. He's got to go through, get his foot going. Because if he keeps missing time, sooner or later you got to cut bait. Okay. I like the fact that they can get the linebackers, but you got to start looking at the quarterback of the future. If Rivers is going to melt down like he did when he was breathed on, or in his direction against New England, and rightfully so, there were a couple hits that I saw that I was like, whoa, like how is there not a flag on this?
Yeah.
You know, if that was Brady, there'd be 17 flags on the field, and there's only 11 zeros on the field.
Yeah, exactly.
So, start looking for your backup for your next heir to Philip Rivers. He keeps taking B like that. He ain't gonna last a long time. And just face it, you can't beat the Patriots, so you hope that you can, get through to an AFC Championship game or a Super Bowl without having to face them, because that's literally their
Well, look, I'm gonna go a different route here. First of all, Forever, I want to just say, all kidding aside, I know I ripped your team pretty hard here. You guys were banged up all year long. You didn't have Henry most of the season. Gordon wasn't 100%. You missed Bosa for a good chunk of the season. You guys have dealt with a lot of injuries.
But they were still 12-4.
And I think that's a credit to their head coach. I think Lynn should be the coach of the year. And I think Lynn has done if not Lynn, then your boy Nagy. But I think that this guy has got this team going in the right direction. I want to reiterate something you said. If the Chargers don't get the heir apparent to Philip Rivers this year, they're in trouble. They're in a lot of trouble. Because I don't know how much longer Rivers is going to play. And the last thing you want to do is bring in a rookie quarterback and have to start him. But look, the Chargers found some things this year. They found Eckler. They got a great rookie defensive back in Derwin James. They've got one of the best offensive lines in football, and they're young, and they've drafted them. The Chargers...
Don't forget their corner that they lost all year, too, will be back.
Right. So the Chargers' future does look really, really good, just not in LA. Their future as the LA Chargers doesn't look promising. And they are going to be, and this is something Spanos, and I mean this now, Forever, I'm not saying this to gloat, but Spanos is going to have to make a decision. Does he want to be the New York Mets? Does he want to be the LA Clippers? Does he want to be the second, sloppy seconds in LA? Or does he want to be an established organization somewhere else? I would love to see the Chargers go back to San Diego. And I don't know that that's out of the question. Something to ponder moving forward. But the Chargers' future looks really good. Now I want to address New England. Tom Brady, you do suck. Your whole team sucks. I'm sorry, you suck. Yes, you looked impressive against the Chargers for a multitude of reasons. Number one, they didn't play you the way they're supposed to play you. Number two, as my colleague has told everyone listening, they didn't blitz you. When you go up against a football team that actually decides they're going to play the right game plan against you, you do suck. And you're going to Kansas City, you're going to be the underdog, and I know for me personally, as the games get more and more valuable, I don't believe Tom Brady's going to allow Sony Michel to rush for 100 yards. And if they get to the Super Bowl, you know Sony Michel's not going to rush for 100 yards. Because he's going to want to throw for 9,000 yards and be the MVP and the reason New England wins. So I'm really looking forward to this AFC Championship game. Now, truth be told, if the Rams beat New England, there will not be a bigger, a more staunch New England Patriot fan than me. I will be going back to my inner 2001 self when the Patriots were my favorite AFC team and my third favorite team overall. I will be rooting for New England like a lunatic because I want the Patriots.
You misspoke. You said Rams Patriots, and I'm rooting for the Patriots. So let me just rephrase that for you. You would love the Patriots to beat the Chiefs.
Yes, and play the Rams in the Super Bowl. Absolutely. Sorry.
So Gostkowski can kick a field goal with 8 seconds left and have all the whole time run off the clock?
That's fine, absolutely. And then the final score will be Rams 34, Patriots 3. And they kick the field goal to avoid the shutout. I don't care. There is – look, I know everyone wants to see the Rams and Chiefs, and I'll be fine with the Rams and the Chiefs. But truth be told, I want New England. And we'll get to that later. So, New England, congratulations on the win. And Tom Brady, my opinion, you do suck. You just played a team in your home park that did not game plan for you at all. And their number one threat, Melvin Gordon, was horribly banged up. This was like the 2000...
That's not the Patriots' fault. The Patriots
No, it's not. It's not. I'm not
not
saying it's their fault. I'm just saying it's luck. The ball bounced their way in that regard. Just like when...
It's rigged.
It's not rigged. I'm not saying it's rigged. But it's like, imagine if LaDainian Tomlinson was that banged up in the AFC Championship game when they met a few years ago.
12 years ago?
12 years ago. Phillip Rivers, torn ACL. Played the game anyway.
Yeah. Actually, LaDainian was banged up because he didn't play majority of the second half.
That's right. I do remember that now.
He had a groin injury.
That's right. So, yeah, New England's had...
So yes, debunked or must have been the Patriots' fault.
I'm not saying that. Just saying the ball bounced their way. Eric, Patriots, take it away.
Tom Brady sucks. He's only 28 out of 38.
No, Eric, hold the phone. I didn't say Tom Brady sucks. I said the Patriots suck. His comment after the game was, well, I guess people think we suck, or I guess we suck. And I'm saying yes.
Well, yeah, everybody picked the Chargers, you and me included.
Yep. But I'm saying the Patriots do suck. I'm not saying Brady sucks. Go ahead.
I mean, what can you say? The Patriots utilized their weapons. They took away pretty much everything that Phillip Rivers could have ever wanted in a game, because that's what Belichick does. He takes away one of your, some of your best weapons, and finds a way to do it. Now, he doesn't have a flashy defense. He never really had a flashy defense. I mean, you could make the case when they went 16-0 in the regular season.
No. I think the 36, 38, and 39 defenses, the defense that made Super Bowl 31 was pretty much the same defense that made 36, 38, and 39. I think that defense was, there were a lot of superstars on that defense.
Well, I mean, you can go through the names or whatever, but I mean, they weren't like, all right, I mean, that's fine. But Brady takes what he's given. And you can't fault a quarterback for just making the plays that's in front of him and letting his receivers and running backs run the way they're supposed to run. Turner's defense didn't show up in the game.
No.
As evident by Sony Michel having 3 touchdowns. And they even let Rick Burkhead get the game. You know what? You know what's funny? If you watch, and they really highlighted Gronk in this game as a blocker, and that's pretty much what he's been, the last few weeks for the Patriots. And man, he's been good at what he does. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that he's not going to. I'm just waiting for the game that he goes off, and I won't be surprised if he has a couple of touchdown catches against the Chiefs, or if they meet up against the Rams, he's got 20 catches for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I would be.
I don't think it'll happen.
I would be.
I don't think it would happen. But Brady likes to get some of his guys like big games. Look, Edelman had a big game. Michelle had a big game. Blake had a big game. Now they're going to Kansas City. And Kansas City's defense, yes, albeit it's better at home, there's not too many times that Brady gets flustered a lot. I mean, except against the Dolphins for some reason in Miami. He's lucky he's not playing down there. So the Patriots just take what's given. he doesn't have to throw deep, which can help or hurt him depending on how you view it. And I know you view it as hurting him because you're just like everybody should just play 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. Which, that's how you got to beat Brady. And
not 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. You got to play on the line of scrimmage. You got to take away the short game.
I'm talking like safeties. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, the Patriots really need a lot as far as offensive line, quarterback, and whatnot. But I mean, they're set up to succeed for a reason. And I can only hope that one of our teams has a stretch run like the Patriots have. Like, I would love the Bears to have a stretch run. I would love everybody to hate the Bears for that matter.
Yeah.
And Trubisky to go, for the next 15, 16 years, be Tom Brady-esque and lead the Bears to 10 straight NFC championships.
Calm yourself.
Super Bowls.
No.
And the Bears defense just take over.
Calm yourself. You had the Chicago Bulls. Shut your mouth.
For 1 decade, shut up.
It was still every freaking year it was the Bulls as the 1 seed. The Bulls.
I mean, so it's not my fault the Lakers pissed into the Celtics and decided to all take a crap right when the Bulls decided to be good.
Freaking Knicks. The Knicks were your biggest competition.
Yeah, the Knicks, because they really did much against us.
That's what I'm saying. That's my whole entire point. The only team, in my opinion, that really gave you a run.
Ewing, Starks, Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley for the Knicks. But he had Reggie. Looked like Mr. Potato Head Miller.
Yeah. Oh my God! But the one team
with Elo, Price, and Doherty and Nance.
The one team that gave you a hard time though throughout that run, including the one time they met you in the NBA Finals, was the Phoenix Suns. But anyway, I digress. It is what it is. Patriots go on. Next up, the last game of the day. All right, Eric. Eagles at Saints. I've gone off on the last 3 games and done it first. Do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I'll take the Eagles Saints first. Well, the Eagles won the first quarter.
Yeah, impressively. Problem is they play 4.
Wow, the Eagles look so impressive in the first quarter. They're up 14-0. I'm like, you know what? They peaked already. I'm watching them like you peaked already. Like you're done. You're not going anywhere. You already lost the game and you don't even know it. You're up 14-0. And that's exactly what I told myself. I mean, the beautiful throw from Foles to Jordan Matthews to open up the scoring was just a thing of beauty. I mean, perfectly placed. Matthews ran a great route, and the quarterback was looking back, and Matthews ran right past him. So, and I'm like, okay, wow, Foles is going to be on this game, and holy cow, if the Eagles win this game, like, real quarterback controversy. And then he scores a 1-yard touchdown, and then the Eagles are not heard from again until the last drive. And Mr. Surehands, Alshon Jeffrey, I got the best hands in the league, had a ball go right through his hands to Marshawn Lattimore. Oh man, I'm watching the game like, well, here goes Foles on a game-winning drive. Here it goes. Oh, Alshon, no. Well, that sucks. You're up the Bears, so whatever. But I mean, give the Saints credit. Another big game, 171-yard receiving from Michael Thomas. I mean, Breeze tried his hardest to sort that game in the first quarter and say, okay, let's try to open up this defense and see what they're doing. And that was a great interception by Maddox. He's had a couple of good games in the playoffs against the Bears and Saints, and he continued it against New Orleans. It was just not enough for them to overcome. And And the Saints really just, you know, I want to say bully their way down the field, but man, when you need to score, or when you need to run a fake punt with Taysom Hill, and every time Taysom Hill's on the field, just make sure you put 10 guys on him to make sure he doesn't go anywhere, okay? Um, you know, for the Saints on their game-winning drives, they went for a fake field goal, got it. Threw it to Kirkwood on fourth down and got it for a touchdown. And, I mean, the Saints were resilient. That's what they were. The Eagles, you could tell that their time was coming to an end. And as much as I think it would have been fun with a rematch or Foles to keep going, it was time for the Eagles to go home. And the Saints, I mean, what can you say about New Orleans? But, like, where's their offense gone? They still play really good defense. And I know the injury of Sheldon Rankins is going to, you know, hurt him a little bit. I don't think it's going to hurt him that as much as you think for some reason. But I don't know. I think the Saints' lack of scoring is going to hurt them. But you never know. I mean, can they turn it on? Can they put up, you know, 28 or 31 or whatnot, like they did against Pittsburgh? But do they need that one play to jolt them? And that's the problem. If you need that one play and twice tap it on punts in Tampa with the block punt by Hill, and then Hill with the fake punt running up for past the first out marker for a yard. You know, if they need that, the next two games, if they get that far, especially in the second game, they can't rely on that type of play. No. To get that to will that to a victory. They need Drew Brees to be a leader, and they need him to come out and say, okay, this offense is on me. It starts with me. You guys just get open. I'll get you the ball. We don't need this fake punt crap.
The problem is they do need it.
Problem is they relied on it 2 of the last 5 games. Now, before I let you go and get your thoughts, Philadelphia has already made the mistake of saying that Mike's their quarterback of the future. So we all know Nick Foles is gone. I think it's a bad decision. This is why I'm not in the front office and we're doing this show. But I digress. I really think that, you know, they're making the wrong decision. Philadelphia just needs to keep Wentz upright, keep him from either a torn ACL or a fractured vertebrae. And you know what? I'm telling you this. The fractured vertebrae would scare the living crap out of me, only because if he gets hit just the right spot at just the right angle at just the right force again, his back will flare up. Mm-hmm. And this is why you want a reliable backup quarterback. I don't know if Nate Sudfeld is that reliable backup quarterback. You know, Philadelphia just needs to get healthy. They need to decide on a quarterback, which I believe they have. To get their running backs healthy, decide on a running back or two, make that your guy. They have decent receivers. They have an all-world tight end. And their defense is already good. So, you know, re-sign some key pieces. Maybe make a splashy pickup in the offseason. I mean, maybe you call the Steelers and say, hey, R1 for Antonio Brown. R1 and Nelson Aguilar for Antonio Brown.
Maybe.
You gotta think about it.
Look, what was the score to the Saints Steelers game?
31-28.
Okay, I thought it was 29-28. Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay. So the Saints have scored 30 points only once in the last 6-7 weeks of the season. And I've been hearing all year long, the Saints are better than the Rams. The Saints are more explosive than the Rams. I heard all month long in December, the Rams are in a slump. The Rams are in a slump. Meanwhile, New Orleans was stumbling against Tampa Bay, kicking field goals and barely beating Carolina, struggling against Pittsburgh, okay, losing horribly to Carolina. All 4. non-playoff teams. All four. All four. Breeze has completely fallen out of the MVP conversation. In my opinion, it's between Donald and Mahomes is probably going to get it. Breeze has about as much of a chance to win the NFL MVP as Jared Goff. Meanwhile, I saw the Rams score 31 against the Cardinals. I saw the Rams score 48 against the 49ers. And I saw them score 30 against Dallas. And I hear people say, in the Dallas game, this is the first time the Rams have scored 30 points in quite some time. No, Troy. No, it literally was the third week in a row they put up 30 points or more. But you keep thinking the Rams are in some kind of a rut and the Saints are on some kind of a hot streak. Now, getting to the Saint game. I felt so confident the Eagles are going to win. After the first quarter, I'm like, Eagles got this. And then they have that pass on third down. There's a holding penalty. And I looked at Kate, my wife. I looked at, the TV, and I went, accept the penalty. Accept the penalty. Make it 3rd and 10. And I remember, my wife was like, why would you take the penalty here? I'm like, because the Saints aren't going to get a first down. And you put them in a position where they can't fake the punt. That's right, because I knew they were going to fake a punt. I didn't know it was going to go to Taysom Hill. I didn't know what the fake punt was going to look like, but I knew they were going to fake the punt. Then Taysom Hill gets the first down, and I think to myself, it's Tampa Bay all over again. Saints are going to come back and win this game. I don't know what the final score is going to be, but Philly's scoring 14 points. Because they beat the Buccaneers 28-14 in a very similar situation. And I kid you not, at that point, I went, okay, we're going to New Orleans, and I can't wait. And that was during the commercial break. Then they come back, and the Saints score a touchdown. Now, Nick Foles driving up the field, Anthony, weren't you thinking he was going to have another comeback? No. And you know why I didn't think they were going to have another comeback? Because the Saints' defense is really good. And they deserve credit where credit's due. And the Eagles could do nothing against New Orleans. And the last thing that defense is going to let happen is in the final minute of the game, take a dump and lose just like they did to Minnesota last year. That wasn't going to repeat itself. Not in the Dome and not with the Dome Patrol running around. Saints defense. So it's funny because I was sure the Eagles are going to win, and then I was sure the Saints were going to win. And the Saints would have lost this game, as crazy as it sounds, if Doug Peterson takes the penalty and forces him into 3rd and 10. Because I don't believe Drew Brees is going to complete that pass. The Eagles' defense was flying all over the field. And now you put yourself in 4th and 3, 4th and 7. They're not going to fake a punt. They're going to punt. Game over. So when they didn't accept the penalty, and I knew they were going to fake the punt, and then they faked the punt and got it, game over. And it's funny because I'm listening to them on the radio, on the TV, and they're like, no one's expecting a fake punt on 4th and 1. What a gutsy call by Sean Payton. That's the only call for Sean Payton. That game was out of control. Philly had all the momentum. And if you punted, it would have been exactly the same situation as if you didn't get it on 4th down. So what's the risk versus reward? The risk is 0 because you're in a situation where you're about to pack your bags for the summer, for the spring. The reward is you get the momentum back in your hip pocket. You're only down 14. But if you punt, bet your dollars in your pocket, you're down 21. So for me, it was a no-brainer. And I saw it coming from a mile away. And Doug Peterson made the wrong call. And it's crazy to think, but in postseason football, guys, one decision at any point in the game can change the outcome of the football game. And this was Exhibit A. The Saints defense is a real tough defense. And the Eagles, They deserve all the credit in the world. They played some great football. But this game came down to three things. It came down to the Saints secondary basically saying to Nick Foles, not in our house. A lot of pressure from the front four, and Rankins was dominant against the run in the second quarter and third quarter until he got injured. But at that point, the Eagles were fluttering and had no answers. I would have liked to have seen them try the run there and get themselves in field goal range and kick the field goal. And one play in particular, when they had 3rd and 5 at the 45, right? They ended up throwing. I would have personally liked to seen a draw play there because Rankins was no longer in the lineup, and see if you can't get Sproles to, zig and zag and dash his way to a first down. Even if he only gets 4 or 3 yards, you go for it. You got nothing to lose. Because one more first down, you're in field goal range. And 20-17, Alshon Jeffrey doesn't have to make the catch. The Eagles have a whole different playbook to their availability because they know at the very least they're playing for overtime. And with the way the Saints have been playing, you hope you win the coin toss, but, you put yourself in a position where the Saints are in a difficult position playing defense. But, alas, they didn't run the ball. And give the Saints credit where credit's due. This is the best team in the NFC, and they showed it. They were down 14. They had a coach that made the right call, the smart call, the call anyone with a brain I think would have made, certainly one I would have made. And he took the momentum back. Taysom Hill, in my opinion, this kid needs an opportunity to be a starting quarterback. I'm going to tell you right now, if he isn't the guy that replaces Drew Brees and they go with Teddy Bridgewater, the system's broken. The system is absolutely broken. What are we doing to evaluate talent in quarterbacks in this league? Because this guy is Bronco Nagurski. He's Joe Cap. For those of you that are old-timers, that name, you were like, oh, wow, he just said Joe Cap. If you don't know who Joe Cap was, he was a quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. And in the 1969 NFL Championship game, he ran on a quarterback draw and knocked out the Cleveland Brown linebacker. Did knock him down, knocked out asleep, knocked him out. He was that kind of a power runner back in the 60s, and he was a quarterback. That could be Taysom Hill. And this kid's got an arm, as he showed on the touchdown pass to Kamara, that unfortunately was called back. This kid's legit. And I'm sorry, Teddy Bridgewater better not be the future in New Orleans, or the system's broken. But put that all aside for right now. The Saints did what they needed to do to get the win, and they look good doing it. And yeah, Alshon Jeffrey, if he didn't drop the ball, the Eagles are probably going to win the game. Maybe. But Latimer was in the right position. He had the absolute right coverage. And he was able, in the event that there was any kind of a mishap with the reception, put himself in position to make a play, and make a play he did. So it's the game everyone wanted to see back in Week 5. Everyone wanted to see the Rams and Saints in the NFC Championship game. It's fresh blood. It's new blood. I can't say that this is going to be something that we're going to see for years to come because I don't believe once Drew Brees retires, the Saints are going to be there. But it certainly is the game everyone wanted to see in 2018. Now to Philly. Dude, I don't know how you look at this roster and say, we're going to go ahead and put Nick Foles on the free agent market. We're going to keep our third string quarterback. If Wentz is your future, fine. Give that man a massive $20 million what's it called? No. Franchise tag. Give that man the $20 million franchise tag. Keep him in Philly one more year and just be sure that when Carson Wentz plays next year, he's there for the long haul. Because I'm telling you right now, there's been no bigger fan of Carson Wentz coming out of college. I liked Wentz and Goff. I've said this before. You guys that have followed the show, you know I've said this before. That I believe Wentz and Goff were the two best quarterbacks to come out 1 and 2 in an NFL draft ever. And it saddens me to think that Wentz's career may be cut short due to injuries. And I got a real question. if we're really concerned about player safety, is letting a guy come back and play with a broken vertebra really the answer? Because like you said, Eric, he's one hit away from being a quadriplegic. He's one hit away from being Darryl Stingley. Is that really what we want? Now, ultimately, you can't force a man to retire. But these are questions I think Wentz has to ask himself, and it's the Eagles' responsibility to look at this honestly. You may want Wentz to be your quarterback of the future, but do you really want to put that young man's life at risk because you like him? Or would you rather go with the right thing? I don't know, Eric, where Nick Foles is going to go next year, but whoever he goes to, if it's a team that has a good defense, if it's a team that has some weapons, I think you have to look at them seriously as a contender. Because he is every bit as good as he proved a year ago. In Philly...
Well, if you franchise tag him, count the Giants out. If you let him walk, count the Giants in along with Denver and Jacksonville.
Man, that scares me. The Giants. Could you imagine Nick Foles in New York?
I don't want to.
I don't want to either. Look, the future in Philly...
Or your scenario, if they do franchise tag him to Oakland, while Oakland trades Carr to Miami.
Oh, maybe. The Raiders have first-round picks to get rid of.
They have 4.
Yeah, so I'm saying they've got some playroom. Look, the future for Philly, if it is Wentz, it's a questionable future. If Wentz is healthy, the Eagles' future looks great because I believe Wentz is going to be a good quarterback in this league. If Wentz isn't healthy, back to the cellar you go. So that's what's at stake for Philly. To New Orleans, I want to say one thing moving forward. The Saints, make no mistake about it, you heard it here, and you only heard it here. The Saints are the team that's really struggling. And you're going to hear a lot of people pick the Rams this week. And you're going to sit there and you're going to listen to them talk about the Saints in these glorious terms as if the Saints are this unstoppable offensive juggernaut. And you're going to ask yourself, why are they picking the Saints? Because they know what I'm about to say is the truth. New Orleans has never gotten out of their slump. The slump Dallas put them in the 13-10 loss, New Orleans has never recovered. And they didn't get out of it in this game against Philly. And they're about to play a team that's put a 30-burger on the board 3 weeks in a row. Well, 3 games in a row that they played. And you could say that it was Arizona. You could say that it was San Francisco. But what do you got to say now that it was against Dallas? A defense that is a heck of a lot better than the New Orleans Saints defense from a statistical standpoint. And I would argue from a talent standpoint, especially the front 7. Now the back 4, I think the Saints are better. But the front 7, Dallas has them whooped. Not even close. Now the Rams are playing hot. And the Saints, they're lukewarm at best. So for New Orleans, they got to try Kamara. They got to try Ingram. They got to try Ingram up the middle, Kamara on the perimeter, and they've got to try and get the ball to Teddy Ginn Jr. and see if Marcus Peters is locked in or not. Because I'm telling you right now, the only way the Saints are going to get out of this slump is if they can put a couple points up on the board early. They get 10 points in the first quarter, you know it's going to be a high-scoring, high-shooting game. And Drew Brees has got to be efficient. He's got to be efficient on third down. He hasn't been efficient the last 6 weeks. He's been efficient when he's had to be. But for large chunks of the game, he hasn't been. And the Saints haven't needed it. So New Orleans has got, in my opinion, if I'm a Saint fan, I'm more worried about my team now than I was before the postseason started. Especially seeing the way the Rams played on Saturday. Now, I know you may have a different opinion, Eric, and that's fine. But I'm looking at numbers, and it's starting to slant. That field is starting to tilt in the Rams' favor. They're coming in with more mo, and we'll see what happens. Your take on the Saints.
Well, that was a mouthful.
Yeah.
glad you previewed the game already.
I'm not previewing the game. I'm not. I'm just saying with the Saints. I'm talking about the Saints right now. Not. You did this to me with the other thing. Go ahead. Anyways.
You know, with New Orleans, I agree with the whole Teddy Bridgewater thing. I can see him in New York as well. It's just a matter of how long Drew Brees wants to play, really. Because once Drew Brees says I'm done, it's really hitting the reset button because you really need the right quarterback in there to go along with Michael Thomas. And it's amazing what he's able to accomplish with Michael Thomas in the short amount of time that they've been together. And the type of receiver Michael Thomas is, because he's a good one. I'm not a fan of Ohio State. Never have been, never will be. But some of the guys that they trot out on the NFL field, like a Michael Thomas, Ezekiel Elliott's a lot better than I thought that he would be. And you could go on and down the line, because there's quite a few of them. I mean, Orlando Pace was just a beast for the Rams back in the 90s and early 2000s.
Chris Spielman. Chris Spielman.
Joey Galloway was a heck of a receiver coming out of Ohio State. I mean, there's more.
Michael Myers.
Carter. We could sit here for an hour and name a ton of them, but you get my point. And it's just a shame that 40 years old right now, because Drew Brees actually just turned 40. That at the end of his career, he gets a Michael Thomas, something that he's really never had before. And it's just a shame that he couldn't be like 35 and get Michael Thomas and see what they could do together. But the next quarterback that comes in and throws to Michael Thomas is going to say, "Hey, Drew, thank you," because I know you and him made each other, and Drew Brees is already on the fast track to Canton. But they're going to enjoy whatever Michael Thomas gives the next quarterback, because I'll tell you, that quarterback's going to be set for a while. Other than that, I mean, you already got. If they can get a lot more out of Eli Apple than what the Giants did, that's a win right there, picking him up. They've got a very underrated defense. Just keep adding to it. Just add to the offensive line, and you're fine. I mean, if Brees comes back, I invest heavily, and I try to find or even trade for a number 2 wide receiver, because right now, I don't know if Ted Ginn Jr. is a number 2 wide receiver. Kirkwood's not a number 2 wide receiver. You have Michael Thomas, then you have everybody else.
You imagine Antonio Brown? You imagine Antonio Brown in New Orleans?
Supposed to go around between Brown and Thomas, and then give some to Ingram and Kamara if Ingram comes back. I mean, listen. If Kansas City can do it, and nobody is lobbying for more footballs to be thrown their way, New Orleans could do it, but man, they would need an attitude adjustment and an attitude change from Antonio Brown to not even say, "Hey, I want the ball," when Kansas City's able to do it perfectly with a high-profile tight end and a really good wide receiver. And then you have 3 other wide receivers you kind of got to get a ball or two to, and then hand off to your running back. All while Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball around like a freaking.
Dude, I gotta say, Antonio Brown is a cross between Michael Irvin and Terrell Owens. And and Dallas had them both. Yeah. And that's why I think he's just a perfect fit in Dallas. Look, I'm gonna go. We're going to wrap this up, but I want to ask you a question. Cliff Kingsbury here in Arizona is in a little bit of hot water. Do you know why?
Because he's 35 and 40 overall as a college head coach?
He said back in October when he was with Texas Tech that if he had the number 1 pick, he'd go after that kid from Oklahoma. Yep. Well, now he's got the number 1 pick, and there's some belief out here that Rosen may be out.
I would see I would quietly entertain trade packages and see what you could get, and if it's satisfactory, or you're getting more than what you're asking for, or potentially asking for, I would pull the trigger.
There's no doubt that kid from Oklahoma would help that offense that he's going to install much better than Rosen.
Listen. I'm going to stop you right there. He's going to play baseball because his 5'9" wiry frame is not going to cut it out of football.
Why is he declaring for the draft then?
He's declaring for the draft to up his baseball stock status.
Okay. I hope you're right because this is going to be a crap storm in Arizona.
And plus, there's no way, I would bet my house on it, that the Cardinals are that stupid and take Kyler Murray number 1 overall. Now, there's a big chance that the Cardinals would trade the pick, okay, move down and gather up more picks, and then take Murray later in the first or early in the second. But there's no way they would take him number 1 overall. No way.
Well, and there's rumor that the Cardinals are throwing this out there because they're trying to see who's going to offer them.
First of all, whatever a newly signed head coach says, I would take with a grain of salt because there's no way in heck that Steve Keim, the general manager, or the Bidwells will sign off on that, letting Kingsbury have that much control.
Well, wait a minute. It depends. Has Keim been drinking again? Because he might. Sorry, is that too soon? Was that too soon? All right. I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
Horns up.
Ram it.
Ooh, he said ram it. Go Ram!